Welcome to the latest episode in my History of Dark Ages England. This is the story of how the country came into being. It follows the Anglo-Saxon invasion of what was former Roman Britannia. If you missed previous episodes, be sure to look them up. And if you find it greatly, then click the like button. Episode 21, Civil War to Peace and Prosperity. England had come into being more by accident. Certainly there wasn't any grand design. Aethelraed the Unready had been crowned King of Wessex and Mercia, but regarded Northumbria as part of his overlordship. But Northumbria itself, which had the Danelaw, did not always feel part of Wessex or Mercia. The latter in turn had always held the belief that it was its own realm merely aligned with Wessex. Devon and Cornwall down in the south-west only looked to Wessex when they were threatened from without the island and looked to it for protection, but for the most part felt separate, and all the indications are that the majority still spoke Celtic language. With Aethelred II, or the Unready, now back as King of England and seemingly ready to govern as the people would like, a problem arises in the form of his eldest surviving son, Edmund. This happens just as Canute from Denmark lands back in England in the summer of 1015, and there was a double murder of two leading thanes, Seaforth and Morcar, from the Danelaw. What prompted this we know not, but there was much resentment within the Danelaw over their deaths, and Edmund seized his opportunity. The story is this: Aethelraed had put suspicion of being directly involved with the murders on himself by ordering the arrest of Edith, or Ealdgyth, the widow of Seaforth. Edmund gallantly came to her rescue, then took her back to his lands within the Danelaw, before gallantly taking possession of the lands belonging to her dead husband. As both Aethelred and Canute were not in the good books with the people of the Danelaw, Edmund II, known as Ironside, now gallantly married to the Danelaw Edith, was declared king. Civil war was imminent with Aethelred and Edmund Ironside, plus the added spectator bonus of what was essentially an outside invading army under Canute, rampaging and pillaging up from the south around Poole Harbour, while the two incumbent armies started to eye each other with readiness to do battle. The North had declared for Edmund, just as previously they had shouted their hurrahs for Sweyn and Canute, and although it was by force that Canute was taking the south, it is clear that what they all wanted, either north or south, was strong governance and good laws. Now into play comes the Mercian leader Edric, an opportunist who had been mixed up in the two murders, but had changed side to Edmund just at the time he had heard about Aethelred being taken ill, so was raising an army ostensibly to fight Aethelred alongside Edmund. But when the two met up, he split from Edmund and went over to Canute. This all seems politicking on his part, as if he is weighing up which side has the winning formula. His departing from Edmund may have had to do with the lack of size of the Northumbrian forces under Edmund, and not being able to raise as large an army as he should have wished. Then, being half-hearted about the whole affair, the ASC notes the army went home for the Epiphany and only returned on threat of being fined under the terms of the Witan. At the beginning of 1016, Canute moved north and crossed the River Thames into Mercia, having teamed up with Edric. They then raided the old district of the Whikey, which still tenuously held on to its own mini-realm, and it seems not to have thrown in with any particular side. Edmund found some support from Uhtred, Earl of Northumbria. However, they set off not to engage with Canute, but to plunder Mercia. Canute made his way to the north, and when Uhtred learned of this, he broke off his plundering, returned north and submitted to Canute. Uhtred was then swiftly murdered and his earldom given to Eric of Norway. And if you think this story is convoluted and hard to keep up with, pity the harmless drudge narrating it. Meanwhile, Edmund had arrived in London with his army and teamed up with Aethelraed, just in time for him to shuffle off this mortal coil on 23rd of April, St George's Day, 1016. He had reigned from 979, a total of 35 years, one of the longer reigns in the pre-Norman conquest of English history. There is nothing to celebrate about Aethelraed's time on the throne. He had impoverished the English people and brought disrepute to the monarchy. Edmund had now gathered support, and this was not easy. He had the backing of London and some other earls, but there was just after Aethelraed's death a meeting in Southampton where the consensus was in support of Canute. Edmund led a successful campaign in Wessex, but this allowed Canute to take London. There were some manoeuvrings which saw Edmund retaking London by neatly sneaking through the lightly trodden paths to the north of London, bringing him via Tottenham, which was then still largely forest. Canute found his provisions running low because of his unreliable lines of supply, so he did the unexpected, always a good thing, and took himself by fleet up the North Sea into the River Orwell and raided East Anglia and parts of Mercia for supplies. The two armies then met twice when Canute had returned down to Kent. These two skirmishes left undecided outcomes, and it was only later when Eadric changed sides yet again and threw in with Edmund that a battle was fought. This was at Ashington in Essex, and Edmund's army was defeated. Edmund II had by this time acquired the affirmative name of Ironside due to his fighting spirit. Canute recognised this, and although he was the victor at Ashington, he cut a deal with Edmund, allowing him to keep Wessex. This would undoubtedly have led to trouble were it not for fate to intervene, and Edmund dropped dead 30th of November 1016, leaving Canute the unquestioned victor. It is still debated as to whether Edmund's death was convenient or accidental, or conveniently accidental. Canute could now call himself king, but could he be sure? We will find out in the next episode. If you found this video greatly, please thumbs up. I publish a new video every Monday with occasional bonus episodes on a Thursday. Any positive comments will be appreciated, and spread the word on social media. Also hit the subscribe button to get the latest episodes, and ring that bell to get reminders. And any recommendations on history forums and the like would be appreciated. Thank you.